53-man rosters for the Jets and Giants are, I guess, somewhat settled. Both baseball teams are playing well at the same time. We'll talk about that sorcery. Welcome in to another edition of the NY Sports Index. That is Jaime Eisner. I am Chris Schubert here with you talking all things New York sports. A lot of great feedback on episode number 1. We appreciate everybody hanging out and joining us on this journey. And Jamie, it feels like the calm before the storm, right? You had 53-man rosters get set. Baseball calendar's about to turn to September. Football games start here in about a week. It feels like that slow little bit of time before everything kicks off in September.
Yeah, I mean this is kind of this weird because of the changing of the NFL schedule over the last decade or so, adding games, taking away a preseason game, moving when all this other stuff is like, kind of feels like there's this weird week right now of like roster cuts are happening. Have already happened, I should say. Waiver claims are happening. You're still going to see some roster turnover as guys move around a little bit, but yeah, it really is the calm before the storm. We're now 8 days out as we're recording this from opening night. For most teams, we're 11 days out of them playing their first game. It does feel like there is this weird little lull. Obviously, we're both big college football fans, so there's plenty of that going on. But in terms of just NFL only lens right now, yeah, they should wipe the floor with NAU to start the season.
For those that are just watching the video version, I did throw up the ASU forks up.
Although those that are in the area, keep an eye out tomorrow as we're recording this on Thursday. Rutgers hosts, I believe, Ohio, the Bobcats, if I'm not mistaken here.
So not Miami of Ohio. Just regular Ohio.
Regular, good old, and I am right. Regular, good old, the Ohio Bobcats. They're 2 touchdown favorites, by the way. The Rutgers is at home to open the season. So,
wow.
We'll talk plenty of that stuff over there. But yes, see my Giants hat on. Final cuts have been made. Additions have been made. You don't have any of your gear on. That's okay. No. You're not a good fan. I understand that. But
true at all,
you're ashamed of the Jets. You're ashamed of your team. It's a little early to be ashamed. Usually the Jets shame starts right around October, but that's okay. It's okay. But
this is big talk for a guy who's going to be dreaming about Jackson Dart starting like 2 weeks into the season. So easy there. Easy there, buddy.
You got Justin Fields starting.
It's true. Speaking of that, let's talk about these rosters and talk about if there are any surprises, any major areas of concern. And since you decided to poke the bear and go after me, we can start with the Jets. And I don't think there's I don't want to classify any of the moves as a major surprise. You have a year one coach who's putting his stamp on the roster. So really outside of like Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and like the known names, I think everything was up for evaluation when you have a first-time head coach coming in and trying to put his stamp on the roster. But I think the most notable thing was their decision to cut Malachi Corley. That's going to be the thing that top line generates the most headlines. Yeah. Although I'm not surprised.
But it's not surprising.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and again, that's the big name. We'll talk about there's a Giants name that got cut, that got claimed by the Patriots that we'll talk about here in a second. But again, neither really surprising. The Malachi Corley tenure, really Joe Douglas has had the tenure that he had in his picks. He's hit on a couple, but there's a lot of misses, and Malachi Corley is one of those misses. But I know the Jets are a bit receiver starved. We talk about that a little bit on episode 1 about what the options behind Garrett Wilson look like, but I didn't really seem like he was ever going to make this team. I thought he was a guy that came into the summer on the bubble and then really didn't do anything to maintain himself there. So it's a little thin, but as we talked about, it's an offense that's not going to be throwing the ball a ton relative to the rest of the NFL. So I guess you can live with it. Definitely an area of concern. Definitely an area that I think Jets fans are going to want to watch this wide receiver class. I know it's a little early to be talking draft, but it's my job, so I'm already watching these guys. Some might be a class, even though it's not considered to be elite at the very top. Jets need to add some pieces there, but Corley didn't have a role.
No, and he couldn't find a way onto this team last season when they were throwing the ball a bunch, and his attitude was, I think, a question mark as well. And if there's one thing that I've learned very early on, and I didn't think I needed to learn it, but it's very clear Aaron Glenn is not going to take any nonsense from anybody on this team. Doesn't matter who you are. He's the guy in charge. He's the general. You're going to march to the beat of his drum, hence why there was never even a conversation about bringing Aaron Rodgers back for this season. And so year one for a coach, especially when you're new to the scene, you've got to set the tone, right? Like, you have to make your mark on a team, and you have to make sure that everybody else knows that you're not messing around. And in business, this is referred to as the landmark fire, right? Like, you fire somebody or you cut somebody that, I don't want to say nobody saw coming, but it does create some shockwaves. And a guy that they took in the third round last year that they traded up for doesn't make it to his second season with the team. That is going to, I think, further the notion that this is Aaron Glenn's show. Aaron Glenn is in charge. He's the bus driver. He's the conductor of the train, whatever analogy you want to use. And I think that's all that move signified for me.
Yeah, and look, the reality is in the world of the NFL, and we see this all the time, if the coach and the GM are different, doesn't matter what your draft positioning was. We've watched second, third, fourth round picks all get cut this week. Recent ones as well across the NFL. And typically, it's usually because either the coach or the GM or both were not still there. Now, sometimes it happens. There are some times where you take a guy in the fourth round that year and just, that wasn't what we thought, but let's cut bait. But more often than not, when those two components are gone and you haven't been productive, they don't care. They didn't pick you. They might not even have liked you, because keep in mind, a lot of these guys, whether they worked as a coordinator, as Aaron Glenn did, or they worked in the front office in an assistant role or head of scouting or certain thing of that nature, they have scouted all these guys. Everyone around the league scouts everybody, because it's something that Bruce Arians told me way back when, of that why he personally would watch every quarterback in the class, even when he had his guy, even when he had Carson Palmer, even when he had Tom Brady in Tampa. Just because you never know. You never know when the guys are going to come back up in free agency, off waivers. You never know when you might go to another team and all of a sudden this player's on your team, or you have the opportunity to get that player. So just because you were drafted highly by one team doesn't mean you were thought highly of around the league by others.
The only other move that I would make note here when talking about the Jets and their roster was Bernard Converse not making the team. He was certainly a standout that I thought could have made the team, but their secondary room is filled with a lot of talent and a lot of choices, and so he was the guy that was kind of left on the outside looking in. And I'm sure he's a player that's going to get, if he hasn't already been swooped up by somebody else, he's going to get swooped up pretty quickly.
Yeah, and on the Giants side, I think there were two names. One of them in a very, very similar situation, where one is a bigger name for the fan base, and one of them is probably actually a legitimate surprise at the bottom of the roster. We'll go with the bigger name first, Chris, and that's Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito. Not shy. By the way, he ends up getting claimed today by the New England Patriots, but it's not shocking. You're not carrying four quarterbacks on your roster. It's just not a thing that happens. So Russell Wilson's the week one starter. Jackson Dart's the future. So really your only question here was Jameis Winston versus Tommy DeVito, and Tommy DeVito was not likely to win that battle. Let's be honest. I know he had some good numbers in the preseason. I know obviously he has a cult following from his time, not only from his brief Linsanity run, but also because of the name, because of the Italian heritage. Remember the random pizza sponsorship story, all that stuff that happened. So the agent looking like he's part of the mafia, all that fun stuff is kind of the aura around Tommy DeVito. But I'm not really surprised in the least that he got cut. You're not carrying four on your roster, so at that point it's really not that much of a concern. The one I was a little surprised at was Elijah Chapman. Had been having a really strong summer, a really strong preseason. Was defensive line, but also moonlighting a little bit at fullback, showing some really interesting options for the Giants. I do not believe he went claim today, so we'll see if the Giants will get him back and add him to the practice squad. But he's one that was one of those guys that are had a really, really strong summer, did everything you wanted him to do, and you kind of thought, okay, this guy's going to find a spot for them on the 53 somewhere, and he wasn't able to do that. But we'll see if he has a role somewhere during the season if they're able to get him back on the practice squad.
Yeah, just some quick thoughts on DeVito. When they brought him back, it was before they had brought both quarterbacks in via free agency. It was before that they drafted Jackson Dart. They needed somebody on their roster to play quarterback, assuming that none of those guys came through the door, right? You can't know for certain that you're going to sign both Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston in free agency. You don't know for certain that Jackson Dart is going to be available to you to trade back into the first round. So you need to have a quarterback on your roster. But unfortunately, now that that plan did play out. They did get all three of those guys. He's the dude without a chair, right? He's left without a seat with a dance partner, and this was how this was always going to end.
Yeah, and if you remember, like the Giants' QB journey over the last 6 months, really 7 months, has been really interesting. Or 6, because I remember when I was standing in Indianapolis at the Combine, and for those of you that have ever covered it, or if you haven't, there is a giant facility. I shouldn't even say facility. It's facility-like, but it's a giant room. But it is it's like one of the biggest rooms you've ever seen, and it's split kind of like in two. And you've got the side of the room that's in the very back. This is where all the players, coaches talk. It's where ESPN is set up, and NFL Network is set up, and all these all these places are set up back there. Then you have the front, which is radio row, which is just table of outlets.
Not table, right?
Table.
Okay.
Not Dable. Dable will be at the table.
Right,
but not Dable. Okay. It's not a Dable table.
Okay, got it.
Or a table made of Dable.
Got
or
it.
Dable's table. It is a radio row.
Got it.
And so there was the conversation that was happening very openly between NFL personnel and media about the Giants pushing hard for Matthew Stafford. If you remember that conversation from February. And they were, sources tell me, they were very close at that moment. While I was still there when I had sources in person to talk to before everybody disperses Indianapolis and it gets a little bit more difficult. But they were very close to acquiring Stafford. They basically had a deal done pending the Rams putting in that last chance offer contractually to keep Stafford around at the number that he wanted to be at. The Giants were willing to pay that number. The Giants were basically had a framework of a draft pick compensation deal for him done. The one thing that was still out there was the Rams didn't really want to lose him. That was if we can't come to a number, then fine, we'll have to trade and we'll figure it out. So that was plan A. That failed. Okay, understandably so. Mm-hmm. If you remember, Russell Wilson as plan B happened fairly late. Now, obviously, we watched the Aaron Rodgers saga drag on, and the Giants were peripherally involved in that as well. So we forget that the Russell Wilson was a late plan B, and then obviously they trade back up to take Jackson Dart. And again, I will say this, as much as I'm excited about Jackson Dart, they had an opportunity to take him earlier in the draft than they didn't. So that wasn't the like, okay, we're coming in the draft, we're taking him no matter what. We're taking him at the right price, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and they got the right price. But so all of these quarterback plans have changed considerably from the end of February with the Stafford conversation to right now at the end of August where they have to make a cut of the roster of somebody, and that somebody was Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, again, this was always the way this was going to end the moment that the draft was over and this team had 4 quarterbacks on their roster. Mm-hmm. I don't think it mattered how well Tommy DeVito played. They were going to commit to the 3 guys that they acquired.
Unless they could have traded Jameis. You know what I mean? If somebody would have offered them a boat or somebody like that, then sure. Then at that point you make that deal. But
they would have taken They would have taken the Kenny Pickett deal. They would have taken a 5 for Jameis Winston.
Well, everybody trades a 5 for Kenny Pickett. Right?
Teams are lining up to trade a 5 for Kenny Pickett, apparently.
That said, like, who was the other quarterback that's been getting bounced around a bunch lately? Because for like day 3 picks, it's Pickett and somebody else.
Okay, you're putting me on the spot here.
I know, I'm blanking because there was a real fun stat here.
The quarterback in my head, because I saw him in the news today, was Kyle McCord, but I don't think that's who you're thinking of.
No, it's not. Hold on, I'm going to look this up because it's going to bother me because it was a really good stat. It was I forgot who it was that somebody else that got kept catching, but it said these two Sam Howell. Someone said there's like a third of the league has now traded for Pickett or Howell already. Has traded a 5th round pick for Pickett or Howell. Listen, something like that, or a quarter of the league.
When you could trade a day 3 pick for Kenny Pickett
traded
or Sam Howell.
So it is really interesting. But I think between the two teams, unfortunately, the guy that we talked about who we thought was going to get cut did get cut in Donovan Edwards. I was hoping there was a glimmer of hope for a second that he might make the team.
I messaged you, what was it, Monday morning, a little bit after the pod dropped because he was at practice. And I messaged you and I said, he's at practice. Is there a chance? And no, he was one of the guys that did not make the final 53.
Did they? The Jets haven't announced any of their practice squad.
No, the Jets are notoriously late at making any type of major announcement. I believe they announced their 53-man roster like an hour after they were supposed to. Like, the Jets are notoriously bad at this.
Although, no, I do see it, and unfortunately, he did not. He's not
Wow.
on the practice squad so far.
So they did
Brady
make
Cook
their-
is, but
everybody's favorite QB3.
yeah, that's sad.
I'm excited
I
about
mean,
Brady
it is
Cook
what it is.
being on
Again,
practice.
I do think that there's these conversations on these days are a little self-gratifying. The hand-wringing over the 52nd and 53rd players on the roster. This is likely, for more often than not, the most we're going to care about that ever is in this week's window. So I do want to place this in the proper context of
Yeah.
we're yelling about guys that are likely never going to make a difference for these teams. But it's still something to note.
Before we move to baseball and we talk about the
Yeah.
Mets and Yankees both playing good at the same time,
He's feeling great today.
the
Feeling
first
great
time-
about the Yankees today.
Yeah, so-
If we could just play like the Nationals in the postseason, it's gonna be great.
so just to put it in its proper context, we are recording this show. The Yankees have finished up their series with Washington.
They're still the game's over, and they're still hitting homers in this game. I think.
The Mets have played 2 of their 3 games against Philly, but for the first time since basically the first half of the season, both teams are playing well at the same time. I want to ask this question for you, Jamie. Now that you can see the 53 on paper, right? Is there anything new that wasn't a concern before today that now that you see it on paper, you're like, you know what? That is a bigger deal than I thought.
You know, I saw this in the rundown, and I wanted to kind of sit there and really think about it. And I don't want to get too deep into the fandom where I'm like, I feel really good about the Giants. The Giants were a bad football team last year. But I like where they are in a lot of this spot. The one thing I would say, and I'll go on both sides of the ball. The one area that does concern me a little bit, I guess there's 2 things that concern me on the offensive side. It's the starting guards. I do have a little bit of concern with the Giants starting guards. Do like the tackle situation. I also think that Marcus Bell is going to find a way to. I can't believe he slipped to the 5th round, by the way, but I do think he's going to have a significant role in this team on something. I'm also a little concerned about running back depth if there's an injury. Now, I know Scadaboo's back on the field. That's our guy, Arizona State.
That's right.
Both are alums of, both got our journalism degrees from there. But obviously, I like Tracy a lot. I don't know how much Devin Singletary has left in the tank, to be perfectly honest with you. Little concern there, but nothing that raises a major red flag to me. And quite frankly, you can go out and you can get backup running backs mid-season for 6th-round picks, things of that nature. So that's a little thing for me. Defensively, and I know that I think I know Gray's on PUP right now. So, I mean, there's possibility that this doesn't become an issue for them. But I do have a little bit of a concern there just because Scadaboo hasn't been healthy this offseason. So I do want to make sure that they get that situated. But interior offensive line is a little bit of a concern for me. Defensively, I mean, this team should, if everybody plays up to their potential, be one of the best defenses in the conference. Like, they are a legitimate team. Their front 7 is really good. They have an elite player at the very front in Dexter Lawrence. I think Abdul Carter is going to be a superstar from the get-go. You know, Bobby Okereke inside, Micah McFadden inside. Like, I like the pieces they have. I think we'll get a little bit of a bounce-back season from Javon Holland. He was a guy that I liked a lot coming out, liked early in his career in Miami. Was bad last year. Was legitimately bad, and they kind of wiped their hands of him. But I think this is a team that is going to have to just do enough on offense. I think this is going to be a very strong defensive team again this year. They've got some dudes. They've got dudes at every level. I guess my concern is more so of, can they keep the quarterback protected on interior rushes, and are they set up in the backfield in case of an injury, where I do feel like I like what they've got at wide receiver, even if, let's say, obviously you don't want to lose Neighbors, obviously, but like, I like Slayton as a backup option. I think Wanda Robinson, I know he's a very polarizing player among Giants fans, but I think he's a solid player, regardless of whether or not they end up signing him to a longer-term deal after the season. You know, Bo Collins makes the roster after another very strong preseason. Jalen Hyatt has potential. He's been very up and down, but I like what he can have. I think they've got some passing game depth, and then eventually, you know, there's, weirdly to say, they've got some quarterback depth. You know, if Russell Wilson, as we talked about a lot in the show, if he struggles early, boom, let's get Jackson Dart in there. So I feel good about where this team is in the context of what we talked about. Can this team hang around? Technically you have to get a tie now to be around 500 to be 500 anymore. But in the context of can this team win 8 games, I feel pretty good about where they are.
One thing you didn't mention that it kind of stuck out to me when looking at the depth chart. I do worry if they are dealt a injury to their corner room because their backup corners are a little bit suspect. Now, you diminish that if that front seven is as advertised. If that front seven is everything that it is supposed to be, then you can maybe get away with some depth problems at corner, but that is something that at least was a red flag for me when looking at the chart.
Yeah, and I think you have to stay healthy there, but I think the Banks, Phillips, Adebo combination, which is what's going to be on the field for most nickel packages.
Not worried about the starters.
Good to me.
Not worried about the starters.
But yeah, you've got Cordell Flott, Rico Payton, I think they brought in off waivers, Art Green, it does start to get weak, but I feel like you're going to see that with a lot of teams at corner.
Sure.
You're just going to have to kind of stay relatively healthy there. But like I said, I just really, to me, it's really exciting when you start talking about the NASCAR package that they roll out there, with Thibodeau and Burns and Abdul Carter. And it's just the stuff that they can do there. And again, I know Kayvon's future is going to be interesting because obviously if you look at just traditional starting lineup, he's the odd man out right now. But he is going to play. You're going to rotate guys on the line. You're going to rotate edge rushers. And on third and long, when you're going to have Thibodeau, Carter, and Brian Burns coming after the quarterback, that would scare the hell out of me. I don't care how good of a team you are, that would scare me. Those are 3 legit dudes.
Hence why you're not that worried about your corner depth if those are the guys that you're putting up there up front. You'll take your chances.
You've cut down the time they have to cover receivers.
Right.
Again, there's 2 things. You either cover well or you get to the quarterback and prevent it. That's how you can have coverage sacks, and you could also have sacks that save your coverage. So there's kind of a couple different ways that you can, as you could say.
A good pass rush can mask a lot of other issues, right? It can mask a lot of your problems. As for the Jets, looking at the depth chart, there's nothing that is still here on the 53 that is not anything that's already been talked about.
Yeah.
They have 1 wide receiver. That's obviously going to be a point of contention. Their quarterback room is going to be a big question mark with what they can get out of Justin Fields. How they utilize their running backs is going to be a big question. Defensively, you look at, can they get the best version of Brandon Stevens? Because he was not that last year in Baltimore, and he's a very risk-reward type player. Andre Sisco, who they signed to play free safety, another boom or bust type player where he can make a bunch of plays, but also can get beat over the top for a big one. So
he's a fascinating guy. Before you finish, because he's a guy I loved at Syracuse, and he is a really interesting player, Chris, because of that. He has got tremendous ball skills.
Yes.
He has game-changing ball skills. The problem, as you said, is that sometimes leads to lapses in coverage. So, I just wanted to echo that point of this being a guy that I really like and a guy that can be a game changer, but sometimes he's a game changer in the wrong way.
Right. When a ball's going his direction, he could let the play go by him for 75, or he's taking the ball away and going the other direction. It is almost a coin toss. And so the Jets have to figure out a way, and Aaron Glenn feels like the perfect guy, and Steve Wilkes feels like the perfect guy to get him in a role where they maximize those good plays and they limit those bad plays. And so that's another thing to keep an eye on. All right, we'll do predictions next week for both of these teams and talk about where we think they're going to finish. Maybe we'll talk about individual players, the big players' stats. We can do that next week on the show as well. Baseball, our teams are playing well.
They are.
At the same time.
I was saying, now it helps that the Yankees are playing the Nationals at home.
Listen, I don't make
I'll
the
take
schedule.
The sweep.
Just play the. If they didn't sweep the Nationals, I know what we would have started the show with today.
Oh yeah, well they hit 6 home runs today, so
usually you should win if you hit 6 home runs.
You should win most games that you hit 6 home runs in. Yeah, I think that. I don't know what analytic that is, but that's one that you should win.
That's what you come to the index for.
Let's talk about the Mets first, because I actually think the Mets are a little bit more interesting of a story. I mean, I think the Yankees are fun. They hit the home runs. We have some storylines there. We'll get into it in a second. But they just overpowered a team that they're vastly better than at home. The Mets, walking off the Phillies, got some young guys coming up, pitching.
Jonah Tong on Friday.
Finally, for the first time today, the guy that you told me to start because he had no reason that he shouldn't be in the lineup is actually going to play today in the starting lineup for the first time. But no, not that I'm bitter or upset at all. It's just the fantasy playoffs, and I asked you for Mets advice, and you steered me in the wrong direction. But that's okay.
Sorry.
Okay. It's okay. No, I forgive you. But the Mets are how are you feeling right now? Because the Phillies are a good team. They're now in a weird spot as well with their ace, as we didn't talk about this because obviously we're not a Phillies thing, but their ace is out for the year and maybe out for part of April of next year too, depending on recovery timeline from the thoracic outlet?
Thoracic outlet
Thoracic. Syndrome. So from his Jurassic Park syndrome.
You could just go TOS and I think it'd be okay.
Yeah, there you go. Gotta be feeling a little bit better, right? Like than we were last time we talked.
So plenty of reasons for optimism, right? It does feel like the worm is turning a little bit for the starting pitching, right? Nolan McLean has come up and really rejuvenated an entire group. Clay Holmes has looked much better. Kodai Senga is still a problem, and with the way Carlos Mendoza and David Stearns have both answered questions in their media availability this week, it felt like, without saying it, like Kodai Senga's spot in this rotation is very much not a lock. And this was pointed out to me, and it's funny how you can cover a team or you could watch a team every single day and you can know the ins and outs of every part of the roster, but then there's something that goes under the radar. And maybe it's because I never thought they would ever do this, but Kodai Senga does have minor league options. And there is a world where the move for Jonah Tong on Friday could be Kodai Senga down to the minors, where in a low-pressure environment, he can work on whatever is ailing him. And it was a thought that never crossed my mind. But with Mendoza and Stearns both saying performance matters this time of year, we're taking the rotation turn by turn, Tong's getting called up on Friday. I don't think this team is in the business of calling up their top pitching prospects and then shuffling them right back down to Syracuse the moment that it's done. It just feels like Tong's going to be in this rotation for the foreseeable future for the rest of the year. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they got him in before September 1st so that he is postseason eligible if they hold on to that final wildcard spot or if they come back to take the NL East from the Phillies. So you've got all of those good things pitching-wise. The offense since the beginning of August has scored more runs than any other team in baseball. They're finally starting to hit with runners in scoring position. They're finally starting to hit with 2 outs. They're doing all of the things that good teams are supposed to do. And, oh, by the way, they've beaten the Phillies 9 straight times at Citi Field, and they need to win one more game against them in their final 5 to secure the season tiebreaker, to where they don't have to pass the Phillies in the standings. They just have to be even with them at season's end. So really the one question mark is with the bullpen, and I'm sure I could go for 25 minutes on that if you wanted me to. Yeah. That's the concern with this team, is I don't think they have an 8th inning guy. Like Ryan Helsley just can't be in that role anymore. But overall, I mean, the vibes are great. The vibes of McLean, the vibes of Tong, offense playing well, starting pitching's been really good as of late. I mean, it's a different vibe from where it was, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it really is. And the Mets are also kind of in this weird spot in the standings, right? I mean, you're 3.5 games up on who is the top team now that's out.
So Cincinnati is the team on the outside looking in, yes.
And then, but you're like also 3.5 back of moving up, which is with San Diego. You're 5 back of Philly. So you're like, again, there's 5 weeks left in the season. It's not impossible. I mean, technically you can make all these deficits up in a week if the right situation happens. But you're kind of caught in this weird spot where you're probably, barring major injuries to other teams or yourself, you're probably just kind of where you're gonna be in the season, in the standings. But you are feeling a lot better about your chances in a playoff series, especially in a short series now, than you were before. And you're getting contributions now from other guys in the lineup that aren't your major stars. You're getting, obviously Soto is amazing. Pete Alonso had a great power surge to start the year, but you've needed depth in that lineup, and you're starting to get it a little bit. Whether it's, I know we joked about the guy that you told me to pick up was Brett Beatty, and he's going to play tonight. But he's even found his way in these last couple games and has made an impact. McNeil has been playing a lot better. Tyrone Taylor, you're getting those contributions, and I think if you can maybe make this push on Philly. who, again, has gotten great starting pitching even from beyond the Zach Wheelers of the world with, Suarez and Sanchez. I mean, they've gotten some really good pitching otherwise. So it's not like, oh, no, they're screwed now. There's no way they can hold on to this lead in the division. But I don't know, man. Like, I feel like if the things are in the right shape, particularly with the top of that lineup, that is not a top of a lineup I want to play in the postseason in a short series, because I still think in the right situation that Lindor, Soto, Alonso combination can absolutely take over a series, and that back end of the bullpen, when clicking, can shut teams down and really shorten the game.
Yeah, the two players that I would mention before we transition over to the Yankees would be Mark Vientos has got a 157 WRC plus in the month of August.
Yeah, I should have mentioned him as well. Sorry.
No, it's quite all right. I mean, he's just been absolutely every bit of the player that they expected him to be this year. And truthfully, every bit of the player that he was last year for this team, not just in the regular season, but especially in the postseason and especially in the series against Philly in the NLDS. And it changes everything, right? Before Francisco Alvarez got hurt and Vientos was playing well, you felt like you looked at the lineup and you're like, oh, this team's now 6-7 deep. Tyrone Taylor has been hitting as of late. It just feels like everything is starting to click at the right time for this team, whereas for basically a full calendar month, it was not. It was the opposite. It was everything was going wrong every single night, and they were inventing new ways to lose. So that's player number one. And then player number two when it comes to the bullpen. And I don't know if they're going to have time to fix this. I don't know if they're going to have time to figure this out, but it's Ryan Helsley, because the Mets clearly think he's tipping, and they are trying to figure out, because I don't know how much of the Philly series you've been watching, but in general lately against Helsley, teams aren't even like feigning interest at the slider, and they're just gearing up for the fastball, and not in like, and I know this is going to be like opening up an old wound for you. This is an Astros level of knowing what's coming, but like it just feels like they know when the fastball's coming, and they're just geared up for it. And Bader hits a 2-run homer to tie the game. That's last night as we're recording this pod. And the night after, Helsley had a good outing where you kind of thought maybe his confidence was back, but they clearly need to get him right. And just while they're doing that, they can't have him in high leverage situations, because every game feels like it just matters all that much more. And so if they get him right, if he fixes this issue, and they have the offense hitting the way that it's hitting, they have the reinforcements to the rotation, and then they go Tyler Rogers, Ryan Helsley, Edwin Diaz, who's been the best closer in the National League, has a sub-2 ERA again, has 24 saves this year, has been amazing. You can start to see where, this is the team that they tried to build at the trade deadline. This is a team that can go deep in the National League playoffs, whereas 2 months ago, you're like, I don't know if this team's going to make the playoffs. Now, they still have to do it. They still only have a 3.5-game lead, but you feel so much better about this team than you did a week ago, 10 days ago.
Yeah, and to your point, I took a look at the Baseball Savant page for Ryan Helsley, and his fastball's been an issue all season. And so, again, he's a high velocity guy. I mean, he averages nearly 100 on that four-seamer, but it's definitely a little bit concerning, and especially because I don't think he's ever been a great locator of the fastball. I think he's always just been able to. It looks just be able to throw that velocity off of his breaking stuff has really been it's not reinventing the wheel here, has really helped him. So to your point, if they're not even considering the breaking stuff, it's just a fastball down the middle.
And honestly, everybody throws that.
And yes, nowadays throwing 100 isn't like major leaguers aren't like, oh my God, what's happening now? Like it still matters. I think I saw a stat last night. I think they showed it during, what was I watching? Oh, it was the Padres game, because I was watching the end of that game, and they said something like hitters are hitting like 110 this year against 100 plus mile an hour fastballs. It still matters, the velocity, but it doesn't quite matter as much. And there's a difference between throwing a 100-mile-an-hour fastball and somebody knowing that the 100-mile-an-hour fastball is coming changes the game completely.
Yeah, so they need to get him right, or else they then are at a place where there's 2 or 3 guys in that bullpen that cannot be trusted in high leverage. Ryan Stanek's not going to see high leverage for this team. No. you would put Helsley in that group, and with the way that he's pitched the last 2 times out, Gregory Soto can't be counted on. So you're now all of a sudden Carlos Mendoza with a pitching staff that, while better as of late, still isn't giving them great length. Hey, you now are down 3 relievers that you can't put in a close game. You can't trust to try to get you important outs when you're up 1 or up 2. And yeah, you may not have Edwin Diaz every night, but good luck figuring it out. Like, they need better out of Helsley. He was one of their major deadline acquisitions for this reason, because they wanted another option late in games, and I think it's like 7 of his last 9 outings he's given up a run, and your 8th inning guy can't have that track record.
Yeah, and obviously I'm well aware of that on the Yankee side of things, because their big offseason addition and some of their trade deadline additions for the bullpen have done anything but shore things up.
Well, let's talk about the New York Yankees. Let's talk about everybody's favorite New York Yankee, somebody who should be – he's potentially saving their season, and that is Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah.
He's been amazing.
He is having an unbelievable season so far. I mean,
I'm going to use
go
one.
ahead.
I'm going to use one. It's late. It's late in the show. I'm going to use one. Have you seen his StatCast page?
I have, yeah.
He doesn't qualify yet. He doesn't qualify yet. If he did, everything's in the red.
Oh, yeah.
Everything except his strikeout rate, because
he's still going to strike out, but it's so interesting. So over his last 162 games, he has 43 homers, 117 RBI, 97 runs, and an 855 OPS.
That'll play.
And he has been unbelievable this season. And, it's to me, I started to look at this and I thought about 2 things. And I thought about, obviously, thinking back to last year and the postseason run that he went on last year, which was unbelievable. And he was clearly the best Yankees hitter in the postseason last year. I don't think there's any doubt to it. But I started to think, could this, even though he missed so much time to start the year, like he's only played 51 games this year, as crazy as that sounds, because of the time that he's missed. And then obviously Judge having the elbow injury has prevented Stanton from playing probably another 10 or so games so far, because of Judge needing the DH and them not wanting to put Stanton in the... Like today, for example, day game after night game, they decided they didn't want to put him in the field, blah, blah, blah. But is he having the best season of his Yankees career this year? And I guess you're really looking at, I would say, 2 different seasons. You're looking at his first year in New York, 2018.
Yep.
And then you're also looking at what he was able to do in 2021, the year after the pandemic.
Those are the
2 years that he's competing against. Both those years, he hit over 35 home runs, flirted with 100 RBIs. 273 was the highest batting average in that run. Right now, his OPS is over 1,000, which he's only ever done once in his career, and that was the MVP year in Miami where he hit 59 homers. His on-base percentage is right now going to be the 3rd highest of his career, again, so far behind his 2 big seasons, the year he finished as the MVP runner-up in Miami and then the year he finished as the actual MVP in Miami. But, it's just the clutch home runs. He's got a 185 OPS plus right now. He's hitting 313. He's still walking. He's hitting home runs in clutch situations. He's already in 51 games as a primary DH is already worth more than 2 wins. It's remarkable what he's been able to do. You can look back on Tuesday's game, and he drove in all the runs against the Nats. I mean, I look at this and I say, obviously you have a benefit of a short sample size because it's 51 games, and by the time we get to the year end, it's not even going to be a full half season's worth of games. But given the moment, given what he's on pace to do, I could make the argument, especially because they've needed him to do this and the way the issues that the lineup has had at different times, even though overall the lineup has been excellent, but there have been times where they have struggled or they've needed somebody to step up in games. He's pushing. This could be the best year that he's ever had with the Yankees.
The other thing that really stands out to me when having this conversation, and I wonder if the thought crossed your mind as well, Judge has notoriously gone missing in the postseason, and I don't want to use this time to criticize Aaron Judge, but it's just the truth of the situation.
It's the blemish on his record,
and the person who hasn't had that, the person who has at times carried this team, has also been Giancarlo Stanton. And I
Yes.
think things turned in a big way for Stanton last postseason, where everybody kind of went, you know what? Yeah, he's not going to play 150 games. Yeah, he's going to strike out a bunch. But this dude shows up for us when we need him to, and he's there for this team in the postseason and always delivers. So, like, we shouldn't be as hard on him for the time that he misses in the regular season and maybe if he struggles in the regular season. And I just think there's a greater appreciation for Stanton now because of what he did in the postseason for them last year. And to your point, I know it's small sample size theater because it's 51 games, but statistically, it's potentially the best year he's had in a New York Yankees uniform.
Yeah, and look, just to bring up his postseason numbers, he's played in 41 postseason games, all for the Yankees. He's got a 994 OPS, 18 homers, 40 RBIs in 41 games, and obviously won the ALCS MVP last year. So he has been a consistent playoff performer, obviously as good as he was, in 2024. I think you could make the argument he might have been even better. I mean, everybody forgets about the pandemic playoff year because of that whole, quite frankly, 2020 as just a concept is a blur for a lot of us, but he might have even been better in that postseason run for the Yankees as well. Obviously, they didn't go to the World Series, but he was unbelievable that year as well. And yeah, I think he is such a fascinating case because if you remember, it wasn't that long ago where he was a pariah. Yankees fans hated him. They hated it. The contract sucked. He was never, and quite frankly, he hasn't been as good as he was in Miami. And his contract that Miami did give them and the Yankees gave him and the Yankees inherited has prevented them from adding some other key players at times. I think probably most notably Bryce Harper. But he's answered the bell. He has not shied away from big moments. And quite frankly, he's come back and has not shied away from the criticism that playing in New York brings. And not only just playing in New York, playing for the New York Yankees. It's a different level of criticism. And he has handled it with grace. He's handled it successfully. And at 35 years old is putting up a monster season, considering that he couldn't feel his elbows 6 months ago. Either one.
Both of them.
So I don't know how you can't be impressed by him so far. He's essentially the assistant captain of the team. I know baseball doesn't do the alternate captains like they do in hockey, but if they did, he would have an A on his sweater. I mean, he is the number 2 to judge, and it's not really debated. I would say it's Judge, Stanton, and Cole, are understandably so and obviously so, but those are the guys. And quite frankly, when they've needed him in the postseason, he has been their best player. And he's been their best player in 2 postseason runs undoubtedly, and he's been their best player consistently in the postseason since he arrived.
I have one more Yankees question for you before we go to the final word. Was there some accountability for Anthony Volpe the last couple days?
They did make him say. I did find it funny today that everybody in the Yankees had a great day except Anthony Volpe, who got back in the lineup. And it was one inning where the Yankees hit 4 home runs in one inning, and he made 2 outs in the same inning. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I guess I would say there was. I mean, he sat the first 2 games of the series. It's the first time that they've really gave him, I don't want to call that an extended time off because it's 2 games, but for the way they've treated him, that's a little bit of an extension of some time off. Yes. I mean, it is interesting about what you would consider accountability. I think there's an incident that happened in Tuesday's game with Cody Bellinger kind of getting caught, I'll just say flat-footed, not fully attentive on a ball that went to the outfield in which he could have thrown out a runner at home and didn't. Got publicly talked to in the dugout, and then got the opportunity with almost the exact same play later on in the game and guns the guy down at the plate. So obviously that's something you really like to see in general from your athletes. But it has been interesting to see which players the Yankees are willing to criticize in a, I should say publicly, but like in public are holding accountable, and which players they're not. And obviously the issue all year is they have just absolutely refused to hold Anthony Volpe accountable for
Right,
anything.
that's the discourse, right? That's been the entire discourse all year, is that when he's made a mistake, it's no, everything's fine, everything's okay. We talked about this in the last
that one
episode.
play where he tried to get the Red Sox, I don't know if it was
brutal.
Duran at second
Brutal.
base, and Aaron Boone being like, yeah, he made a mistake. But actually, it was kind of a heads up. Like, no, it wasn't. It was a Galaxy Blaine play that was wrong.
From a player who doesn't need to be making those types
From a
of plays
player
right
that
now.
can't afford to make these players. To make these kind of issues. And also on a team that can't afford it, because every time this team tries to Galaxy brain something defensively, it goes horribly wrong. Jazz tried to Galaxy brain something on the bases. We talked about that in the first episode. You've got these weird things. Just fundamentals. But I guess I'd say it's a little bit accountability for Volpe, but the off-season discourse, and we're going to have some on this show about Anthony Volpe, is going to be fascinating, and seeing what they do, because I know there was a lot of George Lombard hype, but he is taking his lumps now after his promotion in the minors. I didn't think so anyway, but I definitely don't think so now that he's a viable option for the 2026 shortstop spot. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Yankees decide to do in that spot going forward, and if there's some competition, legitimate competition brought in or considered. But yeah, I'd say it's more accountability than we've seen from them recently. So,
well, and it also helps. It also helps that, unlike for a large chunk of the season, they have somebody on the roster that can play shortstop other than Anthony Volpe, right?
Yes.
Like for a large portion of the year before they got Rosario at the deadline and Caballero, there wasn't any other option really on the roster that could play the position. So
Peraza, who was a worse hitter than Volpe was.
So you couldn't really have that accountability. So that was kind of the other reason for the frustration. It's like, okay, he's not playing well. You're not publicly holding him accountable, and there's no actually mechanism behind closed doors or when he plays to hold him accountable. And so it's just kind of this never-ending cycle. Now that they have at least some players on the roster, there are these chances where they can do that. So, the discourse on Anthony Volpe I don't think is going away anytime soon.
Wait.
Final word before we get out of here. I think you went first last time, so I get to go first today. I believe that's how it works. My final word is I want to shout out a player who is having potentially a career year, or one of the better years in his career. And the fact that he's doing it at 36 years old for a team that's trying to come back and win the division, he deserves all the praise in the world. How about a guy that's hitting .289 this season with an .816 OPS? He got his first outfield assist just this past week in left field for the first time since 2017. A guy that's been relegated to DH duties, occasionally plays the outfield because, again, reminder, he's 36 years old. But he got things started last night for the Mets, got the first of 4 straight hits off of one of the best closers in the game. Starling Marte, in the final year of his career for the New York Mets, or the final year of his Mets tenure, I should say, signed a 4-year deal with this team, was fantastic his first year in 22, hit .292 with an .814 OPS. This year, his numbers are better. He has an .816 OPS. Yes, it's only in 77 games, but he has been just as good of a player as he was at the beginning of his Mets tenure. And it has just been I wasn't a believer. I thought it was a mistake to keep him on the roster. I thought it was a mistake to give him time. But, boy, has he been everything this team has needed him to be. When their offense was going sideways, he got hot. He's been at the centerpiece of things. He was the start of everything last night for this team. Brendan Nimmo, after the game, made sure the first person he went up to was Starling Marte to say, you won us that game because you got things started with that hit to get things going there in that 9th inning off of Philly. So he's just been great. It's been a complete turnaround for me personally with him because I was ready to be done with him at points during his Mets tenure. But a guy at 36 years old hitting nearly .290 with an .816 OPS and worth 1.6 WAR as a 4th outfielder backup DH option has just been incredible to see.
Yeah, he's a fascinating player too. Was a huge fan of his, most people were when he was in Pittsburgh. The type of all-around player he was there. Felt like things kind of came off the rails after his Pittsburgh tenure a little bit, the combination with Arizona and Oakland and Miami, and then obviously he has that little renaissance year with the Mets, and then he kind of became a pariah on the team for a bit. But I'm glad to see him doing well because, there was a part of me, I'm not going to lie, that thought early on that, like, oh, he's sticking around because he's Juan Soto's friend, right? Like, there was a little part of me that almost a little bit like the DJ LeMahieu stuff with the Yankees, where it was just like, yeah, Judge likes him, So he's kind of going to get every benefit of the doubt to have a roster spot. And I was like, oh, okay, because Soto loves him. And, they may be promised in that contract, his mother gets clothing and they get a box, and maybe it was like Starling Marte gets a roster spot to kind of whatever they had to do to get Soto to come there. But he's been really good for them this year. And I'm glad to see. I like when players that had illustrious careers, and I know he's not going to like the Hall of Fame or anything like that, but he had a damn good career.
Hold on. Starling Marte, slam dunk, no doubt, first ballot, Twitter, Hall of Very Good player.
Oh, absolutely.
Slam dunk, Starling Marte will be a part of that discourse when he retires. Hall of Very Good, first ballot.
Yeah, what's his career WAR?
His career WAR.
Because I want to make sure he falls into that. He should fall into that category. Ooh, no, he's too high, I think.
What? He's too
gonna
good
have
of a
40
player?
WAR. He's a 40 WAR. Isn't the cutoff 35 WAR for the Hall of Very Good on Twitter?
Let me check.
Hall of Pretty Good? Because it's not Hall of Very Good. We need to make.
Yeah,
it's not Hall of Fame. It's not Hall of Very Good. It's Hall of Pretty Good. And I believe the cutoff is 35.
Oh, man.
He's going to be at 40 by the end of the year. He might have. He might have played it. He might have played himself out of it with his Mets tenure. Honestly,
the MLB Hall of Pretty Good.
I think it's 35.
38.6 B WAR is the highest you can have.
So he's at 39.9.
He can't have won an MVP. He didn't do that, right?
No.
No Cy Youngs. Can't be a Hall of Famer. Must be officially.
He definitely did not win a Cy Young. I can promise you that he did not win a Cy Young.
Must be officially retired or not on an MLB roster for 3 seasons.
So, funny enough, the highest he finished in the MVP race, by the way, was the only time he got MVP votes was that first year with the Mets. He finished 19th. But yeah, he's too high.
Oh, that's sad because to me he just is the
he
definition.
Would have been 38.3 without this season. So this season might have actually disqualified him, believe it or not.
That's sad.
You want to talk about an older guy? I'm going to use my final word on a younger guy, 24-year-old. I think by the way, it's not going to happen. I will say this at the front, but then I will say the nice things. The Game 1 playoff starter for the Yankees, should they make it, will be Max Fried. I understand that. I'm not even going to. I understand how real life is going to work. By the way, Fried, back-to-back really good starts. Looked good today. Had a no-hitter going for a while there against the carcass of the Washington Nationals. But I got to give a shout-out to rookie Cam Schlittler, who continues to basically, for lack of a better phrase, nut up in big moments when this team has needed him. He has now made 8 starts for the Yankees. He has never given up more than 3 runs in any starts. 6 of the 8 starts, he's only given up 1 or 2 runs, and he has the last 2 outings has not given up a run. 6 2/3 against the Rays in Tampa, and then 6 against the Nationals earlier in this series. Just continues to just really dominate. 46 strikeouts in 42 1/3 innings pitched. I don't know how you cannot be impressed by this guy who wasn't that long ago was kind of sitting in the low 90s in the minors. And all of a sudden now is by far their best pitcher velocity-wise. Consistently hits 100. His ERA plus in his 8 starts this year is 148. Now, he still has some things he has to work on. I think he still walks a few too many guys at times, gives up a few too many hits at times, but his whip is hanging around 1.3, which isn't horrible, but it isn't great. His 4 walks per 9, got to work on that a little bit. But what I've seen from him this year, you can argue, and now I know Fried's kind of turned things around these last couple starts, but in the last 4 or 5 weeks, I could probably say he's been their most trusted starter. And he's been the starter I felt the best about. So, in my mind, if the Yankees do get into a longer series, he should be their Game 3 starter. I know they're going to start Fried Game 1. I know they're going to start Rodon Game 2. But he has earned that opportunity, and he's basically been better over the last month or so than both of those pitchers. I've been really impressed with him. I'm excited for what he can bring for the future. I'm excited that he's had so much success early on. And more importantly, I do think he's going to have a key role in a playoff rotation See all the normal caveats. Should the Yankees get there? Should they play in a series long enough to get to that point? Blah, blah, blah. But he has earned that role, and I've been really impressed with him. I'm not going to get a chance to see him this weekend. I'm going to one of their games against the White Sox that they're here in Chicago. I think I'm going to Luis Gil's start on Sunday. But he has another opportunity for a third straight shutout start. I mean, the White Sox offense isn't exactly that exciting. I know I probably just jinxed him right now, but he's been really, really good for them when they've needed him to be. And right now, he's probably the pitcher I feel the most confident in. Clearly, the best pitcher on the roster from a starting perspective is Max Fried. But considering what's happened over the last month, Schlittler's the one I trust the most right this second.
So it's going to take 2 episodes for me to break all of the rules of the program because the final word is supposed to be the final word, and we're not supposed to
you got something else to say? Oh.
The Jets just cut Tyler Johnson, and I don't know how to feel about.
Boy, that wide receiver room gets thinner, huh?
And that's the reason why I wanted to bring it up, because it happened while you were reading the final word, and I don't know how to feel.
I would assume they're doing that because they plan to sign somebody else at receiver.
Or they have a trade.
I mean, I don't even know. I'm just trying to think of like who would still be out there, because like now that puts them at, you got Reynolds, you've got, I'm behind Wilson. Obviously.
I'll tell you exactly. It's Garrett Wilson. It's Josh Reynolds. It's Alan Lazard. It's Xavier Gibson, and it's 4th round rookie.
I continue to forget Alan Lazard is alive.
Arian Smith.
I continue to forget that.
Their 5 wide receivers right now are Wilson, Reynolds, Gibson, Smith, Lazard. It's not what you want.
No, I mean, look, it wasn't like they're going to get this massive upgrade anyway. I'm a little surprised that they would only keep 5. So I would imagine somebody else has to be coming in.
Well, technically, they kept 6 because they submitted their 53 yesterday, and he was on it. They've now made.
But I mean, like now,
correct.
It's 5. And I mean, you brought in the only other pass catcher you brought in. I saw you brought in Jelani Woods, who a tight end,
because
I like, but it's got to stay healthy. Hasn't been on the field much the last 2 years. But
the Jets are going to run so much 2 tight end personnel this year; it's going to nauseate all of us. I'm just telling.
I'm looking at it because the tweet out like they're updated 53 man. I'm just like I'm looking at the names, but yeah, I mean I feel like. So who did they cut him? So they added somebody that wasn't a receiver to, or is that the cut for Jelani Woods?
So they cut. Hold on,
because obviously they got Woods, Pohl, and Cam Jones today. So
yes,
and they cut 3
players. They waived Zaire Barnes, Marquise Hayes. And so here's the way it's written on the Jets official website. Jets awarded Cam Jones, Essa Pohl, and Jelani Woods. Team waives Zaire Barnes, guard Marquise Hayes, releases wide receiver Tyler Johnson.
I wonder if they're going to try. Somebody brought up a good point. Rich Samini brought up that because he's a vested veteran, they can bring him back after week 1 without having to guarantee his full base salary. So maybe that's. And that is a good point that we should bring up. I always forget that every year. That with certain veteran players, you cut them now, you bring them back after week 1, and the team has some contractual benefits to guaranteed money. You're going to see that happen a few times around the league. Whether it happens for Tyler Johnson, I don't know.
I know, but you're going to walk into week 1 with 5 wide receivers?
I mean, they're not going to throw the ball. So, no, I mean, I imagine that's the issue with this is like. Unless your GM, like the Ravens did with DaCosta, like does a video telling the players that they made the 53, you could easily make the 53 and then still get cut that day. So that is where there is going to be so there's no such thing as a final 53-man roster because it doesn't work that way. I'm just trying to look at guys that could still be available for the Jets at receiver, not for a trade, because then that gets you into a whole.
What's Deontay Johnson up to?
Don't do it, man.
I'm just telling.
He couldn't make the. Have you seen the Browns receiving room? He couldn't make that roster.
They just added Malachi Corley to their practice squad.
Yeah, he couldn't make that one. The team that signed Malachi Corley.
That's like Robbie Chosen not making the 49ers, who are desperate for wide receiver help. Like, dude, that's it for you, man. You're done. You're done.
News. But yeah, I'm a little surprised. I did think he was going to be a part of this. So
Tyler Johnson isn't a Pro Bowl wide receiver that was going to save the Jets season. But when you are devoid of wide receiver talent outside of your top guy, it does feel a little weird to start cutting from that area in particular.
I do wonder, though, if this is going to be a situation where they're just like, hey, if we have to get through 1 week, we'll get through 1 week. But because I know Jets fans, like you just type in Jets right now, like, oh, they're trading for a wide receiver. I just don't know who. Like, let's run through this in our minds here. Like, who's available to get traded?
I mean,
right
you
now?
know who I'm going to say.
Devontae Adams. No.
Alec Pierce.
Who? Maybe. Are the Colts motivated to do that themselves? Like,
now you're asking me a philosophical question that I'm not ready to answer.
You know,
yes,
you got Pittman,
you.
Downs,
yeah.
Pierce, Mitchell.
Are the Chargers wanting to get rid of Quentin Johnston?
Is Quentin Johnston awake and breathing? I'm asking you, because the last time I saw him, he wasn't.
I mean,
But yes, but again, Trey Harris is bad. Like, so that's the problem. Is like some of these guys have that you would want to move. Maybe if you're those teams, they're kind of around other guys that are banged up. So maybe you're not super eager to do that until you're sure.
Then maybe don't cut Tyler Johnson.
I feel like you could have cut Stone Smart and been fine. But
I mean,
I get it. You want the multiple tight ends, and I get why.
I know, but you have Mason Taylor, you have Jeremy Ruckert, you're adding Jelani Woods. Like, we don't need 4 tight ends.
Again, as I said, it's a little odd to me that you could have just did that tight end swap if you want to. Although I also felt like you probably didn't need to do Jelani Woods, but it is interesting. I'm just trying to like rack my brain because I don't think we're going to have a monster deal. I don't think we're getting like a Jacoby Myers trade. I don't think you're getting somebody like that. Maybe do they like one of the receivers like the Patriots cut? Do they want a Kendrick Bourne or Javon Baker or? I'm just trying to think who else got. I'm just trying to see if like NFL cuts. What's
KJ Osborne up to? Maybe they
KJ Osborne's one. Hunter Renfrow,
yeah. Giants cut little Jordan Humphrey.
I think he got claimed, didn't he?
Oh, did he? I know Palmer was another one. Trey Palmer was one that I was keeping an eye on.
Palmer. No, he got
claimed by the Saints. It was the Saints. I saw it.
Yeah, because they needed. I'm just looking through some guys that got moved that I think make any sense for the Jets that didn't get traded or didn't get claimed. I mean, again, you have to. I mean, you're looking at the bargain bin, right? I mean, like we want to be realistic with.
No offense, but that's where Tyler Johnson is. So, like, what are you doing? And at least Tyler Johnson's been with you all off season. He's been with you in camp.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm literally I'm thumbing through the guys that got cut, and you're not. There's nobody here that excites me, even for the role that he would play on this team. I don't know. It's interesting. I think we probably spent too much time talking about Tyler Johnson on our last word here. Now we're over an hour for the show. But,
that's just kind of what we need to do here. And now we know what we're going to probably open the next show with because the Jets will make whatever decision they make, and I'm sure it'll get into the rundown for the next episode, which will be in your podcast feed or your YouTube subscription feeds on Friday. Please rate, review, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to see the video version of the show in your podcast feed, Spotify. The video also gets uploaded over there as well, so you can watch the show in your podcast feed. You can also check us out on the NY Sports Index YouTube channel. We post some short-form content over there as well, but you can also see the video version of the show. We are back on Friday with another edition of the show. Get you ready for the weekend in baseball. Everybody have a great one. Talk to you on Friday.